people just don't understand about these kind of struggles. And from what you've already gone through, it's just like, wow. What happened next after the orphanage? How did you end up coming to America?
So because I lived in that orphanage, I was adopted to an American family, a couple. They had 6 of their own kids, and they adopted one child from Korea at age 4 years old. She was such an angel, they decided to adopt another child. But this time they wanted to adopt a special needs child. So that's how I was adopted. But my parents happened to be a president of the adoption agency in Utah. And I told my parents, and I said, I have some friends that need to come to America too. And I just always like to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity as me.
I'm Garrett Wong, and this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success, and what does winning look like for you? Sun Yong, welcome to my podcast.
Thank you. Good to be here.
No, absolutely. We were talking in the green room so much, and then I almost forgot to hit the record button. It's great to get to know you. But I think the listeners would love to maybe if you could introduce yourself, and then I'll ask you some questions so we can get into the topic that we want to talk about today.
Sure, Garrett. I'm just so thrilled to be here on your podcast today as a guest, and it's just an honor to be here. Um, I'm an entrepreneur. I worked as a certified medical assistant for 33 years, and I retired without any money because I thought I was working at my dream job, yet I was not making my dream income. And so I love this space as an entrepreneur. And there's just so many opportunities that I run into that I ended up bracing to change my dream income and actually made a millionaire within a couple of years of retirement. And that is just like amazing. And that's not what I was expected, but I set myself a goal and I took a smaller steps, and that's how I was able to achieve my goals. So, do you have any questions?
No, I think it's amazing. I mean, I was in the medical field. My wife is a nurse. She's retiring after 33 years in September,
Ooh,
and it's always
great.
like, what's next, right?
Right.
Um, so I know you were asking me in the green room before the podcast, like what type of podcast is this? And I'll kind of explain, like, it started out as a podcast for investing. That's why it's called Investing to Win, obviously. Um, real estate, different things like that. But I found, as most people do in their journey in podcasting, that I really love digging into people's stories and their transformations, and yours, like 30 years in one job. But I did some research on you, and if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to talk about your journey from your childhood. I think it's just an amazing, inspirational story. If we could even cover that,
Sure.
like from the orphanage and things like that, even back to, if you want to, why you were in an orphanage, if you're willing to
Yes.
talk about that.
Sure. Yes. As an orphan, after my mother passed away, when I was very young, after my mother passed away, my dad basically told my sister. I had a older sister, probably about 10 years older than I was, and I was probably about 3 or 4 at the time. My dad just told my sister to take care of me, and he just kind of disappeared. Uh, I never got to know his name, my mother's name, or anything before my mother passed away. She passed away from having, getting a birth to a child. So my sister and I, we became an instant orphan. We lived in a orphanage in South Korea, in Mopo is the town. And we lived there for a few years. And then I remember that orphanage was very profound memories that I have. That was just about every week or so, I would hear a baby cry. And then the staff would go to the door, and then they would say, "Oh, we got another baby today." Somebody dropped the babies off at the front door by the
Oh, wow.
orphanage.
Mhm.
And so when I was witnessing that, I thought, oh, my family's normal there, because I thought, well, that's what they do, right? That's the thing that came to my mind was by observing that, witnessing that, I thought, oh, okay, my family's normal. And then another memory that I have in that orphanage was I remember looking out the window. We had a full, like a window front to the floor. And I was just looking out and I noticed my kids, my age, they were playing outside. And I thought to myself, like, I want to go out there and play, but I could not walk. So here I am, just inside of the building, in the room, just staring out and looking at my friends playing. And I thought, "Oh, I couldn't even, I was just getting around with it. So basically, I was born with the hair lip and I could not walk. And so basically, person like me in my country, it would be considered garbage or trash, right? And so a lot of things came through my mind saying, oh, um, I'm no good. We have all this negative mindset, right? But at the time, as a little girl, 4 years old, just all I wanted to do is just go outside and play, but I couldn't even get on the wheelchair or anything. Few years later, my sister showed me a picture of another orphanage, and she says, "Son Young, this is where I'm going to take you." And I think when she was working there as a staff, I think she kind of probably noticed me from the distance. She never, we were never like, she wasn't next to me and saying, "Oh, I wish you could walk to," or "I wish you could go outside and play with kids," nothing like that. I was just sitting by myself. So I think she witnessed something like that, or maybe she noticed as my older sister. So she showed me a picture of orphanage and says, "This is where I'm going to take you." And I said, "No, I don't want to go." And she says, "We have to go." And I go, "Why?" And she says, this place is where you're going to learn to walk." And I said, "I don't want to learn to walk." You know, what a silly thing for me to think as a child. But that's all I wanted was just something that I could embrace with my sister because, I don't have anybody else. And so, but she had to do what she had to do. So she took me to another orphanage. And when she took me there, I was so shocked because I have never seen so many people like could not walk or normal. Everybody was like getting around with the wheelchairs, walking with the limp, with the crutches and things. I have never seen. So I found out later on that that place was like a handicap rehab slash orphanage. So everybody in that place was handicapped kids, and 80% of the kids had a family, and then 20% did not have a family. But all of us were handicapped. So I was so scared because I have never seen such a, everywhere you turn around, but it was just getting around with some sort of disability. But here I am, I can't even walk. So who am I to, but I was just scared. And then she just dropped me off, and it took a long time for us to separate. She finally had to tell me that she had to go to the bathroom. She basically had to lie to me to go, and I have never seen her. So, with that kind of background, um, when I waited all day for her to come back from the bathroom, she never came back. That's the moment that I really lost all my trust for people. I adapted hating the world, basically. I hated the world. I hated everybody. I didn't trust anybody. My world was just
Put into the Google Home app.
upside down. My world was just upside down. And I remember just thinking there, sitting and just waiting all night for it to come back. And I said, I know she's going to come back for me. She went to the bathroom. I know she will. And never came back. So basically, I just stopped talking to people. I never smiled. because I thought if I smile, my lips gonna split open even bigger, right? Because and then I didn't have any reason to talk to anybody. Uh, Going forward, I lived there for about 10 years, and I did learn to walk. It took me 2 years. The orphanage staff showed me how to walk, meaning because I was handicapped center, all these walls had a big, long, poles for people
Like
to hang on to,
like a handrail.
get around. Right,
Yeah.
headrail, something like that. Yeah. So I would just, one of the staff members showed me, we didn't have any physical therapists or anything like that, like in America, right? So she just showed me how to hang onto the rail, and she said, stand up. And I said, I can't. But she said, stand up. So I took that, what she showed me every single day. I just hung onto the headrail and then just stood up and sat down, stood up, sat down, old fashioned way. And then I feel comfortable standing up with holding onto the rail. Then I took a step, one step, and then I would sit down again. So it took me 2 years to learn to walk. And the reason I wanted to walk is because I saw so many kids that are getting around, and I couldn't even walk or get around other than just scooting myself with the my buttock and my legs like this. But then there was a younger kids. I wanted to help them. I thought it would be so fun for me to carry them on my back. That's what we do when we carry people, kids is like carry on our back. And so that's what I wanted to do. That was like my passion. All of a sudden, I thought, I'm gonna learn to walk so that I could help those little kids and carry them on my back. that was my that was my only thing that I wanted to do. Because that orphanage, nobody played outside because they're all handicapped. And so it took me a long time. So when I was about 6 or 7, I remember taking a very first step, and the staff would say, "There's no chairs or nothing." They put me in middle of the room and says, "Okay, take a step." And I just said, I can't. Nothing to hang on to. Just says, "Take a step." And I remember looking at the floor, standing up like this, and I said, "Okay, you have to take a step." And I have no other. You cannot hold on to me, or I cannot hang on to anything. They says, "No, you could do it." They saw my capability, how I learned. And so I took a step and I thought this floor is going to move. That was another big moment. I thought to myself, wow. So I took a step with my right leg, and then nothing happened. The floor stayed same. I didn't fall down. And then I took another step with my left leg. And then I said, oh my gosh, that was just like a moment that I'll never forget. Never forget.
I
But
am
growing,
sorry to interrupt, Sun Young. I'm actually just I guess I'm just overwhelmed here because I mean, I take people through their backgrounds all the time, and I had read about some of your struggles. I had no idea like how raw this was, and I thank you for sharing that. I mean, can I just back up a little bit? Like, I understand, obviously a hair lip and things like that, but why couldn't you walk in the initial part? Like, oh,
I think because I didn't understand. After I came to America, they did an operation on my legs and my lip. They all fixed me up. And doctors couldn't understand why I couldn't walk. I think be working in the medical field and gone through college and everything because I was neglected. I was never held as a child. Nobody ever touched me or anything like that because I never, when I was raising my kids, a lot of things that I'm learning as a mother that I should have gotten as a child from my parents. And I never got that. I would have never understood that if I didn't have any kids of my own. But because of that, where kids were, turning themselves over, how we get so happy with, oh, you turned
sure.
over. And then when they learn to crawl, and we challenge them to put the toys way up there for them to reach, crawl, and try to reach. I never got any of that stuff. So I think that's probably the reason because that I was neglected, never been held, never paid attention to.
Yeah, wow. Um, and you're dropped off at this orphanage, and they just assume you can't walk and that you're disabled, so they just put you in a wheelchair. I mean, it's unreal. You know,
They
when
didn't
we
even
talk
put me in
about
a they didn't even put me in a wheelchair.
it just
They just I just scoot around like this, with
like
my
scooting
right hand
around, yeah,
on
mhm.
my butt. That's how I got around. And
Wow.
when I saw the younger kids that they couldn't even do that, and I thought, I want to walk so I could help them. That was like the most thing that I wanted to do. When I accomplished that, they gave me a white dress, like they called me a nurse. I was a little girl.
So your sister was 10 years older at that time. She dropped you off at the orphanage because your dad had said, like, "I can't take care of you guys." But she wasn't in the orphanage herself. She went
No,
on to something else.
yeah, I don't know what happened to her, but I think I remember that day when she dropped me out. She and the orphanage worker, they they talked all day long. I think she thought that she could stay there, just like the other orphanage, because we were together there. And I remember going to the ocean once in a while with her, catching the crab and
Mhm.
picking out with the just things like that. Very special moments. It didn't happen very often, but I remember those days with her. So I think that she was trying to have me like have her stay there, work there, but I guess she wasn't old enough to work there yet. But and she could walk normal. So I'm
Right.
thinking that they couldn't let her. That was only for the handicapped people, handicapped kids.
And you said you don't know what, like, are you connected with her, or you just
No,
have
no,
just no memory, like, just never wow. Wow.
she never came back.
You know, it's interesting, like, in this society, and, I don't wanna insult anybody listening to this podcast, but, audience, you have no idea what real struggle is until you hear stories like this, and, I'm reminded very much of my wife's grandfather, okay? Came from France, immigrated here, um, parents had way too many kids, and so they just gave up the bottom whatever to orphanages, and so her grandfather grew up in an orphanage because of that, and then learned to hunt and fish and different things and became very, very successful through sheer will. But my mother-in-law, so my wife's mother, actually didn't eat domestic meat until she was in a teenager because they hunted. Like, I mean, people just don't understand about these kind of struggles, and from what you've already gone through, as I mean, it's just like, wow. Um, so take me through, like, I know I read, right? But I mean, what happened next after the orphanage? How did you end up coming to America?
Yeah. So growing up as an orphanage, when my family abandoned me, and I thought, well, what kind I was really curious about what kind of money that people have to do, what kind of job they have to make money to take care of their kids. So the money part kind of instilled in my mind as a young child too. I thought maybe if they have enough money, they could have kept me, you know. So because I lived in that orphanage, I was adopted to American family, a couple. They had a six of their own kids, and they adopted one child from Korea at age 4 years old. She was such an angel, they decided to adopt another child. But this time they wanted to adopt a special needs child. And that's where I came as a special needs child because I was 14, because cutoff age is like 14, or anybody older than 14, you cannot adopt. It's very, very difficult to adopt. And then being a handicap. And so um, it's a interesting. I just barely found out how she found me. My parents found me through different. That's another story itself. It's a very unique. I'm 63. I'll be 64 this year, and just last 2 years, I heard how my parents found me as a special needs child. So that's how I was adopted. But growing up there for 10 years, we have this group of kids and we grew up together. We tried to run away a couple of times, things now that I could walk, I could run away, right?
Right.
and so But I became everybody's gopher, did errands for everybody, at the time. And that was like the highlight of my life that I get to, I didn't really go outside of the orphanage, but, taking them from one, point A to point B, for little kids. And all those were like highlights of my life. But anyway, so after I was adopted here in Utah, like I said, they had six of their own kids. They adopted another Korean child and then me. So there was like 8 now. But my parents were happened to be a president of the adoption agency in Utah. So I hurried and got to work, and I said, of course, I can speak any English. So I used my Korean and English, dictionary. And I told my parents, and I said, I have some friends that need to come to America too, you know? and I'm just I'm always I just always like to make sure that everybody has the same opportunity as me. So I we spoke, language with the dictionaries. And I brought a few pictures of my orphanage kid that my teachers gave us. I said, don't forget your friends, and write to them and
Mhm.
things like that. So I showed to my parents. They put picture of my friends in their newspaper article, monthly article. And so I got about at least 8 or 9 kids that was adopted from the same orphanage.
Wow, and
So
older kids too. I mean, to be adopted at
yes,
14, right before the cutoff, I mean, how many more miracles are you going to keep telling me here? I mean, what would have happened if they hadn't adopted you? What would have happened if they weren't the president? Would have happened if they hadn't had this good, experience with their first Korean adoption child? I mean, then you're
yeah,
still in
exactly.
Korea, and who knows? Who
Yeah.
knows,
So
right?
after 18, they have to let you go. They no longer could take care of you. So we
Right.
would be on our own, you know.
Wow. Um, your struggle. I am just so inspired by you, Sun Young. I can't even begin to tell you. I really thank you. My audience thanks you too for just sharing that. I mean, and I mean, okay, so you kind of started with 30 years as a certified medical assistant, which is unbelievable as well. I wiped away some tears too. Um, I'm just okay. So I'm going to summarize things. Okay. You had this horrific experience. You haven't ever seen your sister again. You have these early memories. The reason you wanted to walk was just to be able to carry other people on your back, which is a metaphor which is unbelievable. And you have this 30-year career, and yet there's something in you, despite all of the struggles. Most people would say, I am a success. And yet you are like, I haven't done it yet. Like, what is inside of you that was just like, I need more? After the childhood you had, most people would be, because I think that's what the problem, I don't want to call it a problem, okay? But the majority of society settles, right? And they settle. My parents taught me to go to school, get a good job, you know, buy a house, pay off the house, and then you're quote unquote retired. But then most people know you can't afford to retire. You're working a part time job, you're barely making ends meet, and you never get to truly enjoy life the way you dreamed about it. What inside of you, despite all of those struggles, said, I want more?
Um, it was my dream job, and I made everybody happy. I was very grateful for the job that I was working my dream job. But I knew, like you just talked about, I knew that I would be struggling paycheck to paycheck to the day that I retire. And I will probably retire when like oldest, like if they have to kick me out to, it's like, you're too old. You cannot work anymore. That's how I'm going to go out because, I was living paycheck to paycheck, right?
Yeah.
I didn't want to do that. And I learned so many lessons from my own patients, working, like I said, 33 years. And last 20 years of it, I worked for internal medicine doctor for 20 years. And so I see same patient weekly, yearly basis. And I was observing what was happening to them with my patients. When they got to retire, they were so exhausted. They ended up not enjoying the vacations like they were meant to go after retire. They were chasing doctor's offices. They're going to emergency rooms. They're ending up with the nursing homes, assisted livings. So when I was watching those things with my patients, and I thought, even though this is my dream job, I'm not making my dream income, and I don't want to end up retiring like those some of my dear patients that I loved. So I just told myself, having a conversation with my doctor one day, and I said, you know what? I'm going to retire. Now, him and I we're about 2 weeks apart in ages, so very close. And so I told him that, and he says, "Can you afford it?" And I said, "No." I was being honest. And he says, "Well, I can't afford it. I gotta at least work for another 20 years, or I gotta at least have $1 million, or at least, you know." And I said to myself, and I thought, well, I'll never make $1 million ever.
This is your principal doctor that's saying this, the person you're working for, and he's
Yeah,
saying he
yeah.
still has to work for another 20 years and he's already
He's a
okay.
doctor.
Wow.
He's a
Wow.
doctor, right?
Okay.
And he
That's a
says, I
wake-up
can't retire.
call.
Yeah, he says, I can't retire until, I at least saved up, $1 million or more. And I said to myself, well, if I continue to work here at my dream job, I know I won't make any money. I will be continue to struggle, you know. And at the time, I only had like $10, and I was looking forward to paycheck to paycheck. And I was working at my dream job 40 hours a week. Plus, I was working on my day off. I did a catering business, and also for a couple of years. And after that, I did a house cleaning, detail house cleaning business. I did that. So I was working 6, 7 days a week, trying to make ends meet. And I knew that's how my life will be for the rest of my life. I got my 40 hours a week, my dream job. And then other two jobs are also my dream job because I love life. I love doing everything. Remember, I didn't have any money as an orphan. And remember, I cannot walk. And so for me to be able to walk and be able to go to work, that's my dream job. I mean, that's like literally like I
It's
get to do that.
perspective, isn't it? Yeah.
Yes, yes. Like I get to do this and it's an opportunity to make money. So to me, it's like, but truly medical assistant was my dream job because I was a nurse at the doctor's offices, and which I was able to kind of did that. I wasn't going to be a nurse, but I just wanted to help.
Uh-huh.
But I just loved. But so I was having a conversation with him, and he said, "So when are you going to retire?" And I said, "Within a year." He goes, "Wow, like how are you going to do that?" And I go, "I'm going to."
Yeah, if I can walk, I can retire, right? How long ago
Exactly.
is this? Like how many years ago?
This was in 2014 when I was having a conversations with him.
Okay, 11 years ago. So this
Yeah,
is you said you're in your
and I
60s, so
retired.
early 50s then.
Yeah, I'm about 54. I retired
Okay.
at 54.
Yeah.
So exactly 1 year from 2014, 2015 December, I retired. In fact, he was on a vacation. And I told, you know, I just, okay, something about me is I'm a very, very high, I didn't know. Like I said, when I was a little, I was like, I'm going to learn to walk because my friends are, playing outside, they're walking. I'm going to learn to walk. And another thing that I didn't tell you quickly was that something happening in that orphanage, a handicapped orphanage, was like the kids with the families, they were, coming home, their families brought them candies and gums and things. And I thought, I'm going to chew a gum. How am I going to chew a gum? I don't have any money. And I was too
Uh-huh.
embarrassed to ask other kids. And so I'm going to chew a gum. So what I did is I went outside with one of my girlfriend. We went outside and picked up the gum. It's been chewed on, walked on so many times, so many years, how many years, I don't know. I'm telling you this is because it's about what I'm going to tell you. It kind of
Wow.
ties into. So I have this goal set about like, I want to chew a gum. So I went outside and I could have asked my friends, the family, say, but I was too embarrassed. You know what I mean? And I'm sure they would have given me a piece of gum, but I accomplished my goal by going outside, picking up the chewed gum, pick the dirt out, and I chewed it. I feel so cool. It's like, this is so cool. I get to chew gum. And I was chewing, my girlfriend and I were like, This is so cool, right? Coolest thing that I have ever done as a teenager. Cool stuff. Okay, so I accomplished that. Okay, so when I'm talking about I want to retire, within a year, I accomplished my another goal. So there's a pattern
Hmm.
that I created as a little girl. It's like, I want to walk, I'm going to do it. I did it. I want to chew gum, no money, too embarrassed to ask other kids. I somehow did it.
Yeah.
I accomplished it. I wanted to retire, no money. Year later, I retire. See the pattern?
Yeah. You choose a goal and you just do it.
I
Right.
just do it. I just take
Yeah.
actions. I don't give myself like, I can't, I don't have any money, I cannot walk, I cannot stand up, I cannot, you know what I mean? I just don't give myself an excuse. I just tell myself, like, kids are walking, why can't I walk? Kids are chewing gum, why can't I chew? People are retiring, why can't I retire?
Yeah. It's true. I mean, the mind is the only thing that holds us back.
Yeah. So going back to like, why did I do that? Why did I retire? Is because the lessons, valuable lessons that I learned from my patients. I didn't want to get old to retire, afraid that I can really, be healthy to retire and enjoy retirement. And besides being there, I knew that I couldn't make enough money to just live more than just, average lifestyle. And I just want to be able to work just one job, not two or three jobs, 6, 7 days a week. So with that kind of mindset, I just retired. And before I retired, though, I thought I gotta come up with a plan. Just like we tell our kids, if you're gonna get another job, make sure you know you got something lined up,
Absolutely. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
that kind of same similar mindset, I thought I gotta do something, after I retire, so I could stay active and very engaging life. And so I became real estate investor. So I went to
Okay.
seminar. I went to seminar and to the investment, real estate investment, but I did have a rental at the time and I wasn't making any money. And so that was kind of like, okay, well, let's learn about investing with the real estate. So I went there. And then they talked about like, oh, you guys gonna make so much money. And it's true. Some real estate, investments, you can make tons of money. But at the time, I wasn't making any money, so I thought I'm going to get some tools and learn some skills and things so that I could make this money on this rental that I have. Um, so I went there, and then they introduced me option trading because they said, so you're going to make so much money, you're going to have to learn to diversify your money, and so we have this option trading course that you could take. And I said, what is that entitled? And they said, you have to use the computer. And I said, oh, okay. That's not for me. I hate computers. I don't check my emails at my work, and it's like I'm a very person to person, people, not a behind the, computer desk, I'm not that kind of person. So I said no. And then I did the real estate and then I thought, no, my goal was I wanted to retire, I want to stay home. So doing real estate, it also took me away from home. So then I shifted and I said, okay, I'm going to do the hard thing. If I learn to do something from the computer, I get to stay home. So that's going to accomplish my goal. you know, so we could change our mind, right? We want to do X, Y, Z, but then what makes sense? And we journey our journey, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's why I got into option trading. But then I also invest in a lot of real estate properties too. I bought a couple of rentals out of states and, lands in Florida and, just all kinds of stuff. So I did that, and we created, opened up a adult daycare to serve seniors restorative therapy before the COVID. We ended up closing the business because of the COVID. We bought a restaurant, we sold it. So I do both. I do option trading and I
You're an
do real
entrepreneur.
estate.
Yeah.
Yes.
And might I add, a seven-figure entrepreneur, which is no small feat. I mean, congratulations. So
Thank you.
I know the title of the podcast, and everybody's who's watching this on YouTube, they want to get into. I want to know how to do options trading, and I'm looking at the timer now, 35 minutes on your journey. But no, like I said, I really enjoy really getting into how somebody got to where they are and their success. So let's talk a little bit about options trading because
Yes, yes.
that's why you're supposed to be on the podcast. What exactly is options trading?
So options trading is basically you make money within the live stock market. So people buy and sell stocks, right? And it's a very expensive. And a lot of ordinary people can't really afford to buy and sell stocks. Um, Only for rich people. They
Hmm.
get tons of money. So I wanted to learn something that I didn't have a lot of money when I started my option trading, and it's more practical. And so I learned option trading, and it was so much less money. So you could get into a market, current market, just like stock market, which it is, but so much less money. So I thought that intrigued me. But I hate computers. I don't like computers. It was my enemy, but I was willing to learn the hard things. So I really dove into it. So my husband and I, we were going to retire about same time. We are about 6 months apart in age. And so we went to investment, the real estate, and then we took some courses as an option trader, option trading courses. And then what happened was when I retired in 2015, I decided that I'm really going to challenge myself, something that I'm afraid to do, which was using the computer to learn the option trading. So 2000, January 2016, when everybody went back to work, like my husband went back to work, my son went back to school after, like New Year,
Hmm.
right?
Yep.
And I went downstairs and I said, I'm going to work. And they're like, they're, they thought I was going to go to work. And I said, yeah, I'm going to work. And they're like, you just retired, like last week. And I said, I know, but I'm going to go to work. I told myself, I worked for 33 years. Why not treat this like another job?
Yep.
But it was a job training. It was more like a hobby for me. It was an intriguing hobby. But a lot of times, a lot of people spend a lot of money on hobbies. And I thought, with my hobby, I'm going to make money.
Hmm.
That's what I switched my mindset. So I went down into my office and I practiced every single day, Monday through Friday, when the market opened at 7:30 until 2 o'clock, and really learning about what the option is all about. And option is like there's a, you know, uh, calls and puts. If you want to do a down trade, you could buy, you could get in on a trade with a put. If you want to do a up trade, which means like setting up a trade when the market is going up, then you set up a call, naked call or single call, things like that. And if you want to set up a trading, so but basically what you do is like instead of buying a stocks and then selling stocks to make money, well, options there is expired dates. So you're in that option trading for like as short as you want. You could be a day trader. You could be in it for like a couple hours, or you could be in it for a week or 2 weeks, or you could be in it for 3 months or 6 months. It doesn't matter. You get to set your own term when you want to get out of this options. When you set up your options, and it's a you instead of buying like a stocks at a certain price, there is a strike prices at certain price that you buy, you set up your options. So it's a really fascinating. It's so much more complicated than just buying and selling stocks. But I like challenges, you know, and I like to work hard. I just so basically like I like to do the things that people don't want to do. Like I don't like to do normal things. And so I just take on my own self a challenge, right? And so I studied it for a whole year. And when we get to like, when you want to learn option trading, you get to practice with the virtual money. So when you get on, set up using a platform and they give you like $200,000 to practice. And so when I was practicing, I set a goal again and I said, oh my gosh, I'm gonna see if I can make like anywhere between 60 to 90,000 this year just with the virtual money. And how much do I have to make for 90,000 a year? How much do I have to make a month? And then I broke it down to how much do I have to make a week? And then how much do I have to make a day?
Yep. Yep.
By doing so, I was able to accomplish. So my first year doing with the real money in 2017, because I practiced for the whole year. That's where my unique miracle system strategy comes in, because I studied it and I came up with a very, very, very simple strategies even like 12-year-olds can do. Very simple. And if they get birthday money, they don't have to have a lot of money and they can still do that. And I taught my kids, doing
Wow.
that strategy. Instead of giving the money, I teach them the skills. I said, look, I'm not going to leave you any money when I die. We're going to spend together, but I will teach you the skills. It's a forever giving gifts that even after I'm gone, you guys could, do this, learn how to make money. And so that's the unique medical system is the strategy for option trading. And then 2017, after practicing for a whole year in 2016, and I made above my goal. I made 178,000 just that first year with real money. And I was just blown away because here I am, I took on this hobby and then was willing to take on a challenge of learning the computers, right? It's like, oh, what am I doing? I hate computers. It would have been a lot easier for me to just, invest in properties. And I still had that going on the side. But, I made some money. When like we sold the buildings and business and I made, good profit, like 2 years, I made $500,000 profit on the one building that we did. And so,
Mhm.
I do make some good money, but option trading is like a mental challenge. And I just love it. It's just, and so simple. So,
Well, you say it's simple. I mean, you're talking about calls and puts and make it
yes,
this. And I mean,
yes.
that's why we have experts like you on the show to demystify that stuff. I mean, so somebody like me who's a pure real estate investor, and then I've had
Mhm,
some crypto people on, I've had some stock people on, and they're talking about just looking at patterns.
mhm,
But then what you're talking about, it's very, very active. And to me, like even I'm very afraid of doing something like that because you don't know what you're doing, or because as much money as you can make, you can also
mhm.
lose a lot of money.
Exactly. Yes. So my strategy, the unique miracle system strategy, is very unique. Is because um, like I can make a lot of money as the market is going down. So a lot of times, people say, "Oh my gosh, the market is going down, so I'm losing all kinds of money." So they sell all their stocks, and then they lose a lot of money.
Mhm.
But I'm a very, very aggressive, bold trader, actually, and so I'm not afraid. I thought, you know what? The only reason I'm doing option trading is because it's fun, it's hobby, but then it's also making me money because, being retired at age 54, I can really tap into any of my retirement until, 65 or so.
Right.
And so, I thought if I'm doing this, I'm going to just make it into fun and making money. But so this option trading, you could set your positions. So you get to like you could set a preset. So in other words, like I preset all my options so then I don't have to stare in front of the computer 24/7 like a day trader. I could go
Right.
out and do other things and I could have interviews and I could, teach clients and things like that. And then you couldn't hear about earlier today when I got on and one of my thing closed, because I heard it, going ding, 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 going. I was like, okay, there goes my trading, closing the market that where I want to, make my profits and things like that. So that's the beauty of it. Like when I retired, we took our kids to, like Orlando, uh, what is it, Disneyland,
Yeah. Disney
whatever,
World. Yeah.
Disney
Hmm.
World and stuff. And then I'm looking at my phone. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm making 30,000 here. I'm having fun with my family. It's just so fun. It's just unreal. But I know there's a lot of stocks, the forex traders, stocks, buyers and sellers. They really pay attention to stock markets, and you have to do that. But there's got to be more to a life than just making money. It has to be fun, right? And you can't really. You don't have to have like $1 million to do option trading. That's the beauty of it. You know, you could have like a $5,000 or $2,000 or even $500, and you could do options and you could turn $500 into 5,000 in, 30 days or less.
So explain that part to me because you had initially said options trading is very
Hmm.
expensive, right? And then you practiced for a year and you started doing it with real money. How can somebody like literally just do it like you said with allowance money or $500? I maybe I'm not understanding that.
Oh yeah, no. What I think I meant is like options trading is not as expensive as the stocks. Like buying stocks are very
Oh,
very
I see.
expensive.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
stocks are very expensive, but
Right.
you get to get in on the market like a stocks with option trading. And so,
Okay.
so in my journaling, or I still do it today, because I have all kinds of clients that are different levels of finances. You know, somebody's only has a $500. Somebody, has like maybe like $1,000 or 5,000 or 500,000, whatever. And so, and I record the things that I do so that I could show to people. Okay. I start out with a 500 here, and then, it took me like 20 days and I made like, 80%. So, things like that. So that's, there is a like trail of the journaling that I could show to people. And also, like, for example, like my husband, he retired 2 years later and working for government. He has a TSP. He had 164,000. I turned that into 604,000, 204% in 11 months. In 11, now, if I was to make that in 11 years, that's still really good, but 11
Hmm.
months.
Right.
So the unique miracle system strategies that I studied, that I created, that I came up with is just so simple. Yeah, you can make a lot of money. Yes, you do have to watch your risk. So sometimes when you're taking care of the risk, is also making money too,
Right.
right? So you just tell yourself, I'm only willing to lose like 5%. I won't take anything less. You know what I mean? Like 5% or 10% is the most that you'll lose. Like some people will set their limits. And then, but because you could preset and you could make like, 50% consistently, 60, 70, 80%. So I think it's very important as a, being in your podcast, like investing to, make money and things like that. It's like you got to have more than one way to make money. You gotta
Absolutely.
diversify your money, right?
Yes.
To invest. So that's very important. And not that's what I do, real estate. And then I also, do other type of services, and then also doing option trading. But everything, like, I love everything that I get to do because of my past, where I just feel like there's no opportunity, but I have a full of opportunity every single day.
Yeah.
I look at my life as like it's beautiful. It's a full of, bright colors, rainbows. And we just have to go there where there's an opportunity. We have to take actions.
Yeah. No, I think too many people, and myself included, I've been guilty of this. I've been doing real estate after my previous career in sciences for
Mm,
since I was 27. And
mm,
I thought, as most real estate investors do, that that's all it is because you can make a lot of money. But as I'm starting to find out only in the last maybe year,
mhm,
that real estate for me, I think is going to start taking to be an end point, not a beginning, because it's
mm,
very volatile, it's very
mhm,
slow, it's very
mhm,
good. You can make a lot of
mhm,
money,
mhm,
but, I think I'd rather make the like, I love these types of things. I love creativity, maybe buying and selling businesses. That's what I'm getting into next. And
mhm.
then you can put that money and diversify into real estate after. I think that's what I'm starting to find out, and some of my coaches are I'm trying to emulate them. So just going back to the miracle system, how can like is it a coaching program? Is it just like
Yes.
a bunch of videos that you can watch? Like tell us a little bit about the system.
Yeah. So the miracle system, unique miracle system, is that the strategies that I use today as for my own investing, making money. And also, I teach my clients. And actually, I'm one of those very rare coach or mentor. I teach people how to do option trading using my unique miracle system alive when the market is wide open. And I teach it like, like face to face, like or Zoom through Zoom. Like I used
Hmm.
to teach them when people used to come to my office before the COVID,
Of
but
course.
we know what happened with COVID. And so now I'm able to teach, reach more people throughout different parts of the country. But yeah, I do exactly like, so I, when I teach my clients, I say, okay, I'm doing a option trading on Tesla today, and choose this strike prices and choose this because I'm doing the same thing. And so when I got so many clients, when they call me, I don't want to go into 50 different companies, they all do different. So I teach them exactly what I do. So they're getting the top of the crop strategies. And, it's like, okay, today let's set up options on Boeing or Disney or Wayfair or, those
Okay.
companies that are, very active.
Right.
And so they like that. I have a clients that they bought and sold stocks for 30 years, and they hardly made any money. And they took some option trading class from different people, and they says, look, my unique system is a very, very simplified. A lot of times when I get clients and their chart in the computer is so full of fancy things, and I said, just peel all those off. You don't need all that fancy stuff. No, you don't. You just need a simple things. So
Okay.
yes.
Okay. No, excellent. I'm going to be putting links to that in my show notes for everybody who's curious, and I'm curious too, because that's something I've always been afraid of but wanted to get into. Let me ask you, Sen Young, because really what you have done, and I'm not talking about like going into options trading, but just that getting out of that financial the handcuffs, right? The
Mhm.
fear of not being able to know. Can you sort of give some advice for the audience of, the biggest thing that you would recommend to try to get out of that mindset of just settling, okay, this is my life and that's it. Like to really go for it. What would you say?
I would say that if you really, really, really want to change life, you have to start with you have to leap through your new mindset. Like you have to change, give yourself a whole new mindset of like, you know what, there's some people out there doing it, and I have a just as right to do what they're doing. So that's when I retired, was like, there's a people out there making $1 million. Why not me? I could do it too. But I'm not going to wait for someone to come and hand it to me and say, Sanyao, I know that you love your job and you were working 6, 7 days a week. Here's an opportunity for you. No, we have to find the opportunities and not just know that there's an opportunity. You have to take actions. And you don't take actions like tomorrow, because tomorrow may be too late. You got to take actions today, like now. Because how many of us, we listen to good motivating coaches or mentors, and then we go home and same old routine. So that was my turning point, was like I was at my dream job, but I just thought to myself, I don't want to live another day just same old routine, financially and everything about my life. I just want to change. So I just basically said, there's a people out there, we could see it. There's a lot
Yep.
of rich people out there, and people are changing their lives for better, right? And so we have someone we could follow, we could see, we could hear about them, right? And so you have to tell yourself, like, there's a people out there, I'm gonna do just like what they're doing. It may not be exact same journey. Everybody's different. It'll be a little bit of different journey, but tell yourself and say you're sick and tired of your lifestyle, same old routine. Just say you have to create your own lifestyle, and that means you have to reset your CD that is, so many years old in your brain, telling yourself like you can't do it. I was never meant to be, or someone says, I don't have enough,
Or
money, or
they
I don't
got
have enough
lucky
time.
or right
They
place,
got
right
lucky.
time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not of that. No, I wasn't lucky. I just told myself, like I was telling my doctor, I'm gonna retire. When? Year. I did.
Yeah.
Did I have any money? No. Now, if I waited till I have money to retire, I would never be retired.
Right.
So when I'm talking about giving advice to people, is this. Like I did another thing about my another one of my goal was like I wanted to buy a convertible. Well, I wanted to buy a convertible, but I didn't have any money. So I'm talking about this same thing here. It's like you don't wait till You have money to be successful. Because when I wanted to buy a convertible as a single mom after my divorce, like I was married for 14 years, then I divorced in the United
Okay.
States for a single mom, 14 years. And I thought, I want to buy a convertible, but I don't have any money. Not even because I was living paycheck to paycheck. But I went out there, test drove convertible. Why? Because I wanted to make sure I sit on the convertible. When I'm working so hard to save money to buy my convertible, I wanted to make sure it feels comfortable. So when I didn't have any money, not even like a $50, only $10 to my savings or living paycheck to paycheck, I sat on it, I test drove it, make sure that I'm gonna enjoy the dream car that I wanted to buy. And so same thing. We don't take actions when you have everything in line. You just have
Right.
to go for it, take actions, but you got to change your how often do we update our phones? All the time.
Yeah.
How often do we update our mindset?
No. Yeah, most people are that's it. Whatever they just that's what I mean. They accept they feel like that's what life has dealt them and they just accept it.
Yeah,
Right.
you can't.
And it's too bad, you know.
Yeah,
I think you know, you are a living proof of just you see a goal, you do it. You see another goal, you do it, except your goals have been like, oh gee, I just want to walk, right? I mean it crazy. The gum story is I've never heard anything like that before. So yeah, so let's I like to finish off the podcast by always asking each guest one question, and I really curious to see what you're going to have to say, but I'm going to ask it anyway. So, Sun Young, this is the Investing to Win podcast. How do you define success? But what does winning look like for you?
I find success by taking actions as soon as possible. And my next chapter is I have a goal within the next 5 years to make 10 million,
Hmm.
5 years or less. And so by setting that goal, I'm already talking to my husband. I say, okay, we got to come up with a strategy now because I have this goal set next 5 years to take 10 million. I don't need it, but it's a goal that we always have to set a goal. We
Always.
can't just be happy, settled, and that's not being greedy. To me, money is like a tool. If you have more tool, you could build your business bigger and better, and you could also donate and help others to pay back, give forward.
Yeah.
But without the extra tools, you cannot do that. So that's what I set my goals.
Well said. Well said. Well, thank you so much, Sun Young, for telling us your story, for being so raw and emotional about it. I'm sure our audience got a lot from it, and I hope they're inspired by your success. It's unbelievable how much you've accomplished, and you're still pushing, which is, I think, a testament to your personality and your drive. So, thank you so much.
Thank you. It was great to be in your podcast, Garrett.
Okay,
Appreciate your
you're welcome.
good work. Thank you.
Thank you.